Good morning and welcome to the Peorian. I'm your host, Paul Gordon. Did you know that the first Santa Claus Parade in Peoria was actually on the Illinois River, on boats? Or that for a long period of time, Santa Claus arrived in Peoria for the parade on a train, and then he had to climb a fire escape 5 stories to get to his workshop. For many years, fireworks were set off from the roof of a downtown department store to signal the start of the parade. Well, as one can imagine, there are a lot of interesting facts about an event that is 124 years old, facts that most of us living today did not know. But one fact we all should know is that the Peoria Santa Claus Parade has the distinction of being the oldest continuously running Santa Claus Parade in the United States. And the 124th version of this spectacle will be this coming Friday, November 25th, the day after Thanksgiving, starting at 10:15 a.m. in downtown Peoria. Thousands will line the streets to see the myriad of floats, the bands from various schools, and of course the arrival of Santa Claus. The parade is put on by Peoria Area Community Events, more commonly known as PACE. Susie Stockman, in her 20th year chairing the parade, is our guest this morning, and she will talk about the parade, its history, and other events when we come back. Welcome back to the Peorian. Our topic today is the annual Santa Claus Parade, 124 years old this year. Our guest is Susie Stockman, who not only heads the event, but also plays another prominent role, that of Mrs. Claus. Welcome to our program, Susie.
Thank you.
First, if we could, let's talk about this year's parade, which is Friday, November 25th. Starts at 10:15 in downtown Peoria, correct?
Right. We step off right in front of the fire station on Monroe Street.
Okay.
And we wind our way through town, up Monroe to Main to Jefferson, back down to the courthouse, and that's the end of the parade.
Where's the judging stand?
The judging stand is on Main Street, right in front of the Regent Bank.
Okay, Becker Building.
Mm-hmm. The Becker Building,
okay.
uh-huh.
What is the theme this year?
The theme is toys, treasures, and traditions.
What's behind it?
We select a theme each year so that the people that decorate the floats or the units in the parade compete in contest. We select the theme so that they can decorate their float or their unit according to the theme of the parade. So each year we have judges that judge the contestants, and we have prizes for the for-profit float, not-for-profit, and novelty unit.
Okay.
And we also have bands. We also have awards for the bands in the various classes, grade and junior high, high school, and there are 3 classes of high school bands. So there's a lot of competition. Dr. David Roman does the judging of that. He brings in 3 judges from some of the Illinois colleges to help judge that.
Back to the floats. What's a novelty unit?
A novelty unit is a walking unit. They can be a Girl Scout group who come up with the most cleverest ideas. It's part of, I think, a badge that they earn, but they come up with, some are dressed as gifts, some are Frosty the Snowmans. You got 25 Frosty the Snowmans, or you have Christmas trees. Or it's amazing what they come up with, but they always try to follow the theme.
Okay. And again, it's toys, treasures,
and traditions.
And traditions. Do they have to try to blend all 3 into one float, or?
No, they can select one part of it. No, they don't have to do all of it. You can, in fact, it gives them more of an option of how to decorate. They can have a Toyland on their float, or they can be traditions, like dressed in the tradition of years past, or their tradition of what they did years past. So there's a lot of options.
Any guesses which you'll see more of this year?
Not this year, because it's a broad one. I remember when I brought in Polar Express, we had about 40 trains. so I kind of steer clear of that, because by the time Rebecca Borland is one of our judges, and she said by the time that last train came through, she says, I was about had it with the train. So, but it just adds something to it every year. Makes it a different parade every year instead of the same thing coming through.
How many units do you expect this year?
I max them out usually about 85 or 86 because we're live on TV, so we have an hour and a half to get the parade through the viewing area, and which is in front of Southside Bank, who's been our sponsor for the parade, for the telecast for 54 years actually. So we try to be done by noon, otherwise we interfere with the soaps. So we don't want to do that, we get letters.
And WMBD has been the broadcast station from the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, since 1957. This is the 54th year that they've telecasted, and it all came about a train ride up to Chicago from Mr. Samples and the WMBD director at the time, and they talked about we ought to bring it live, and it's been done ever since.
Is the weather ever a real factor?
Oh yes, last year was a real factor because it was so cold that we dropped about half the bands because it was too cold to play trumpets, and it's just really too cold for them. We can't, the snow, that creates a havoc, snow or ice because of the horses. They can't come out when it's like that. It's too dangerous for them. So yeah, it does. And it's, when it's really cold, we have over 100 kids on Paces floats. So it's cold for the kids. I mean, we blanket them up and you don't see the costumes very well, but yeah, it's really, but some days, some years it's been beautiful with sweatshirts and some, so you can't.
And of course the weather also will be a factor in how many people are out to watch it as well.
Right. And wind, that's a big factor. I can remember one year it was just a torrential wind coming through, especially on Jefferson Street. And by the time they came to the judging area, you really couldn't tell what their float was. We had beautiful earth made out of styrofoam that was blowing down the street. So, it really does present a problem. So, Mother Nature has been kind a lot of the years, but not all of them.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it is.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the history of this fabulous parade, including why it has managed to keep going without an interruption for 124 years. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. We're with Susie Stockman, the chair of the Santa Claus Parade for PACE. As I mentioned earlier in the segment, Susie, you are Mrs. Claus during the parade. How many years have you been doing it, and how did that happen?
Well, Mrs. Claus we worked on Santa Claus for years and the new float, and someone came up with the idea there should be a Mrs. Claus. And they said, since I had been involved with it for so long, there was no choice, but I had to do it. so I became Mrs. Claus, and it's been about 8 years now. Okay.
How many Santa Clauses have we had throughout the years?
Not very many. I like to be consistent with the Santa Claus because I think it confuses the children along the route if they see a new costume, or we own the costume, so it's the same. But if we have a new beard or a new, that would confuse children. So I try to be consistent. We've had probably 3 since I've been doing it.
Let's briefly talk about the history of the event. 124 years, started 1887.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was actually on the Illinois River.
There were barges coming up the river that brought the parade from Chillicothe to Peoria, and it was to celebrate the construction of the new bridge over the Illinois River. And so stonemasons, 50 stonemasons really is what started the parade, and then they docked at the riverfront, and they brought the units through the city.
Wow. And it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
Is that the only one that was on the river?
That's the only one that was on the river. The following year, in 1888, they started, Carson Peary Scott, which was Block and Cool at the time, took over the parade, sponsoring the parade, and I don't remember because I didn't come to Peoria until '61, but they had Santa at at a toy shop, and they had him climb the ladder up the side of the building to get into the toy shop, and that was the end of the parade. But he used to come in on the train, and they brought him up through the city in the horses, and came through the city with that. So it's been a long Carson Perry Scott, Block and Cool, Carson Perry Scott tradition. They are the ones that really did it, and they did it for like 54 years before it went to the city. And then the Convention and Visitors Bureau did it, along with the Chamber of Commerce. And then in 1989, Pace took it over. So that's when we started it.
How has it been able to survive 124 years without any interruption ever?
The floats were vandalized one year, and the city came together. They did not want this to stop, and it's one of the few things I think the city really gets behind. If there's a financial problem that Pace had one year because of all of our events were rained out, we got a little help. We got a loan from the city to help pay for the parade, which we did pay back. So I don't think anyone wants the tradition to fail, since we are the oldest in the nation. So I think the city will, even sponsors, our businesses will stand behind us just to keep the parade going. And
why are we the longest? Why is Peoria's longer than, let's say, the Macy's Parade?
The Macy's Parade has ran a long time, but they stopped during the war years, which we did not.
World War II, you mean?
Yes, which we did not. We kept on going through the wars, so that's why we have the longest distinction of the parade.
So the only thing that could, in your opinion, ever stop it could be the weather, but
we won't stop it for the weather.
Could just postpone, right?
Yeah, we didn't postpone. We will still have it. If it's just 20 units, we'll come through with it, because we don't want to break the tradition either.
Okay. So as long as Pace continues doing it, and as far as you know, that's going to continue into the future?
Yes, I hope so.
We're going to have a Santa Claus Parade in Peoria?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back to you being Mrs. Claus, real quickly, how long are you going to keep doing that?
Well, they said they were going to mount me after I passed, so I'm not sure. I guess till death do I part.
Till death do you. When we come back, we're going to talk about You'll Like Peoria, another event that Pace handles, and it's scheduled for this Friday evening. But first, here is our culinary and literary guy, Kevin Kizer, to tell us what's happening in his world.
Hey, it's your faithful literary and culinary servant Kevin here to do whatever it is I do. This week, another edition of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To, where I read books most people have neither the time nor inclination to read, but might learn something interesting from. This week's book is called The Swerve by Stephen Greenblatt. It's about the rediscovery of Lucretius' ancient poem on the nature of things, which had been lost for over 1,000 years. This poem, which posits, among other things, that the universe functions without the aid of gods, and matter is made up of very small particles swerving in new directions, helped change history and shape the thought of Galileo, Freud, Darwin, Einstein, and Thomas Jefferson. The text was discovered by a scribe and book hunter. Now, in the 15th century, most books were in monasteries, which were very strict, needless to say. While working there, a scribe couldn't speak. To communicate, they had to use an elaborate set of gestures. If a scribe wanted a book, he would extend his hands and make like imaginary pages. Then he would put his hands on his head like a crown for King David's Psalms, or scratch behind his ear for a pagan tome, or in the case of particularly offensive tracts, put 2 fingers in his mouth to imitate gagging. Hence, in one fell swoop, both charades and a Valley Girl slang term from the 80s were born. Also, the book discusses the decline of Roman intellectual life during that era. Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus wrote, "They enjoy the singer instead of the philosopher, and stagecraft over the orator. But, worst of all, and I quote, the young are driving chariots at lunatic speeds." It just goes to show things haven't changed over the centuries, the driving habits of the young and crotchety old men complaining about them. That's all for this edition of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To. And as always, you're welcome. That's about it for this week on the literary... Oh, wait, we have literary bingo. So get out your literary bingo cards and let me pull an author. Orhan Pamuk. Perfect. Nobel Prize-winning Turkish author of Snow and the Black Book. Now, if that completes your card, send it in and you'll get your free Peorian decoder ring, which will help you unlock the secrets of the mystery map, revealing the location of the hidden scroll where you'll find the first sentence to the ancient riddle, which unlocks the secret of your free Peorian decoder ring. and drink Ovaltine. Good morning.
We're back with Susie Stockman of PACE, and we're talking about the Santa Claus Parade and other events that PACE puts on each year. One of those is You'll Like Peoria. It's also this Friday evening, starting at 6 p.m. Tell us what You'll Like Peoria is.
This is the 20th year for You'll Like Peoria, and it is, we start out, it's a day for PACE. We start out in the morning with the parade. At night, we turn on the lights at the courthouse at 6 o'clock. In the afternoon, we have ice carving by the Hospitality Chefs Association. Does that in the afternoon. We don't know what they're going to carve, but it's on the courthouse lawn. And so that's ready by night, but we turn on the lights. We have Santa down there, and we turn on the lights. And then at 6:30, we have the walkabout throughout the buildings downtown. And there's about 30 buildings that participate. Each building has entertainment, our snacks, hot chocolate, cider. So it's really a very festive event. We have costume characters that walk around for the children. It's a great family event. You just go door to door to different buildings for entertainment.
For example, one year I remember the Madrigal group from Richards High School. I think they were at the Jansen building. Very entertaining.
The Feta Choir has been there too. I mean, we have different individual, guitarists, whatever, artsy people in town. They are in one of the buildings, or we have small children's groups that are singing the Christmas carols. So it's really a neat event. That, just the hot chocolate and cookies alone are fun for the kids to participate with.
Do you know why it was even started 20 years ago by PACE?
It was started, actually, PACE took it on in 1995. We did not start it. It was started by two women, Dorothy Sinclair and Gloria LaHood, who had this idea that we need to decorate the poles downtown, which is also a part of You'll Like Peoria. We decorate the poles the 2 Saturdays before the Santa Claus Parade, and we get live decorations, and we have volunteers that decorate all the poles downtown. So we do probably 220 poles we ordered this year.
Wow.
So that all the decorations on the poles downtown are done by the You'll Like Peoria committee. Okay. So they started that, and then they started with maybe 10 buildings that had entertainment in it, and it just grew. I mean, now we're on the waterfront, the riverfront on Water Street. We are all up Main Street, down Jefferson. So it's really a lovely event for all those people, businesses to open their buildings to this event. The map is in the Thursday paper, so you can check out the map, or it's also on PACE's website, PeoriaEvents.com, where you can view what buildings you might want to visit. The trolley runs. It's a free trolley that runs through. The Carriage Classic also has vehicles, their horses the carriage that they take, but there is a small fee for that. Yeah. But the trolley will take you can get on, off, all the way around the whole. They just do a loop all evening.
Another event that weekend, the weekend after Thanksgiving, one that PACE doesn't do, but it's the Parade of Lights, part of the Festival of Lights celebration over in East Peoria. It is always on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So because of that, the different day, different time, it's not really a competing event, but do they complement each other?
Oh, I think so. I always, when somebody asks me that question, I always say, well, we have live people, and theirs is all lights. So, I mean, we're really direct opposites.
Yes.
All of our floats, all of our units are people, live people, where theirs are beautiful lights. I think it's a great compliment to each other, and it's a great weekend for people to come visit our community, just to have all that going on.
The uniqueness of each parade.
Yeah, I go to both. I mean, I think they're both neat.
And then East Peoria, of course, also then has the up in their park.
Yes, you can
Fond du
drive
Lac
through
Park.
drive through Fond du Lac Park, yeah, in the evening. So, yeah, I think they complement each other very well.
So the Peoria area does pretty well at Christmas as far as decorations, as far as giving families things to do.
Oh,
Wouldn't you
definitely,
agree?
especially that weekend. And there's a lot of people in town visiting family too, so it's a great weekend to have all this going on for people, for something to do.
It's a good way to kick off the holiday season.
Definitely. We always say we're the opening, except we compete with Black Friday, which is
Sure.
the shopping, but people manage to get down there. I get down there usually around 6 or 6:30, and they're already setting up chairs to come to the parade. So,
That early in the morning?
oh yeah, they're setting up. You got to get the best spot.
What is the best spot?
To me, any place along the route is, because we go through the whole route. But yeah,
Susie, thank you again for joining us today.
thank you for having me.
And remember, the 124th annual parade is this Friday. You can see today's show in its entirety on our website, thepeorian.com, immediately following this broadcast. And be sure to join us next week here on WHOI. Have a good week.
Música